Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, an introduction to Microsoft Power BI. My name is Kevin Babcock, and I'll be your host. I am a senior software engineer and consultant with Falafel Software. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is Power BI? Well, Microsoft describes it as a collection of software services, apps, and connectors that work together to turn your unrelated sources of data into coherent, visually immersive, and interactive insights. As you can see from the image on the slide, there are three main components: the Power BI Desktop, the Power BI Service, and Power BI Mobile. The Power BI Desktop is effectively a data mashup and report authoring tool. The Power BI Service is a web-based portal used to securely publish reports for your own private use or to share within your organization. And Power BI Mobile is a collection of mobile apps which simply allows you to access your data and reports from anywhere. Now here is the typical workflow when using Power BI. As I mentioned before, Power BI Desktop is used as a report authoring tool. So you connect to your data source, generate some reports, and then you'd publish those to the Power BI service. Then from within the Power BI service, you can share those reports with others. You can create dashboards using one or more reports. You can also connect to 50 or more, I believe there are more than 50 at this point, third-party services. So if you have an account with one of the supported services, you can connect to it from within the Power BI service portal and allow it to give it permissions to access your data from that service and pull that data into Power BI and create reports and visualizations using that data. And we'll take a look at that here in a little bit. Now, Power BI gateways are used to synchronize data from between the data source and the Power BI service. So if you have a data file or an on-premise database that you want to keep synchronized with Power BI, you can install and configure the gateway to periodically go to your data source and refresh the data so that your reports are always up to date. And finally, the reports can be accessed using the mobile apps or by logging in to the Power BI service. Okay, so let's head over to the Power BI website and let's get started with the Power BI service. Now, if you haven't already set up an account, you can do so by clicking the Get Started Free button here. Keep in mind that there are two account types. There is a free account and a pro account. The pro account is about $10 a month. And if we head over to the pricing page, you'll get a pretty good breakdown of the difference between the two. So here we'll see the features that are included in a free account and the features that you have to pay for. I'm not going to go through these today, but feel free to come back and read this and evaluate which plan is most appropriate for your needs. I'd also like to mention that if you're just now signing up for an account, Microsoft requires that you use an organizational email address to sign up for a Power BI account. What that means is any personal email address, such as gmail.com or outlook.com or hotmail.com, etc., those are not allowed when creating a new Power BI account. They require that you use an email address from your organization or from a school. And with that, I'm going to sign in to my Power BI account. And this is what Power BI looks like when we first sign in. Here, Power BI is showing my featured dashboard. I've set up a dashboard called Samples. For this webinar, it's empty because I haven't added anything to it quite yet. I can change the featured dashboard if needed, and I'll show you how to do that in just a few minutes. But let's go ahead and come over here to the navigation menu on the left-hand side of the screen. And you'll notice that we have several sections of note here in the navigation menu. We have data sets, reports, and dashboards. Notice I already have several dashboards. So here's the samples dashboard, which we saw when we first logged in. And there are several other dashboards here, which I'm not going to show you yet. These were shared with me by a colleague, and I'll show you those later on in the webinar. So for now, I'm going to go here and click My Content so that we only see my dashboards. Nice little filter functionality. All right, so data sets are that data that we have imported into Power BI. So if we're using Power BI Desktop and we're bringing data in from a SQL Server database, and then we've published that to the Power BI service, that'll show up here. You can also connect directly to some data sources using the Power BI service. And that's what we're going to primarily be doing today. Reports are the visualizations that you'll use to display your data. And finally, dashboards are collections of visualizations that you can pin to tiles and arrange in such a way that is meaningful to you and your organization. And you can also share those with other people or with other Power BI users. Okay, so let's go ahead and import our first data source. I'm going to start with a simple Excel file. So I'll click Get Data. I'll come over here to Files, click Get. I'm going to select Local File and choose this financial sample Excel file. Now, when importing an Excel file into Power BI, you have two options. You can upload your file as an Excel file into Power BI. And what this will do, it will create a new report in the report section. And when you navigate to that report, you'll be able to interact with it just as you would in Excel Online. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. I'll go ahead and upload this. You'll notice under Reports, I have a new entry here, Financial Sample. I'll click on that and open it up. Scroll here to the top, and you'll see this is my Excel spreadsheet. So it looks just like Excel. I can interact with it just as I would with Excel Online. I can change the data if I want to. But that's really about it. Not that interesting and really not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And let's click Get Data again, and let's import that file one more time. Only this time, let's choose the other option. Let's import this data into a data set. All right, my data set is ready. Let's go to View Data Set. One thing to note is when importing Excel data, Power BI supports Excel 2007 or later, and it only supports file sizes less than 250 megs. So if you have a spreadsheet that's greater than 250 megs, you're out of luck. All right, so here we have the data set that we just imported. If we look over here to the right, we have a couple of new areas, visualizations, and fields. Fields will display all the fields that are available in my data set, and I can drag these into some of the properties here in visualizations, or I can drag them directly onto this canvas. By doing so, I will create new visualizations, or excuse me, Power BI will create new visualizations for me using the data that I drag over. So for example, if I want to see profits by date, let's drag profits over. You'll see Power BI automatically creates a new chart for that field. And if I want to see profits by date, I simply grab the date field and drag it onto the same chart. And wait for that to update, and we have a chart of our profits by date. Very easy to use, very simple. It's just kind of nice. All right. So let's create a couple more charts here with our data. Let's see. In order to create a new chart, we'll click on the blank area of the canvas and select some new fields. Let's select country. When we select country, Power BI recognizes that this is country data and gives us a map chart type. And if we want to see, let's see, profits by country, go ahead and drag profits on here. Oh, I'm sorry, I dragged products. We'll drag profits and wait for that to update, and you'll see Power BI automatically gives us a map with showing, relative profit sizes by country. Pretty cool. All right, we'll do one more. Let's check out sales by profit, or I'm sorry, by product and segment. There we go. All right, so we have a new graph here. We have our sales by product and segment. Now, if I want to change the way that this looks, I'll use the visualization section over here. So here we have information about my chart. So axis, legend, value, etc., etc. If I want to change the way it's styled, simply click on the paintbrush, and all the styling information is customizable. All right, so click on that again, go to the paintbrush, and let's change the data color for this data item. I'll change that to blue, and you'll notice that over here in my chart, that bar is now blue. But what if I want to change the chart type, or the way that this data is displayed? You'll notice there are a bunch of icons here at the top of the visualization section. These all represent the different chart types that are available here in Power BI. So if I want to see this data in tabular format, I'll just click this icon. And now I can browse my data in a table. If I want to see it as a bar chart again, I'll click that icon. If I want to see it as a stacked bar chart, I'll click this icon here. So there are a lot of options, and it's very quick and very easy to take the data that you've imported into Power BI and create some very nice looking charts. All right, so now that we've made these new charts, let's go ahead and save this. I'll call this Financial Sample Report, and I will click Save, and you'll notice there is now a new entry under Reports. So the Financial Sample Report is now under Reports. I can come here if I want to view these visualizations that I've created. Notice that it's in reading view right now, And if I want to edit it, I just simply click Edit Report. And now it's editable again. All right, so what if I want to create a dashboard with these reports or with these visualizations? Let's come over here, and here's my samples dashboard. Let's get rid of this. Oops. Let's get rid of this. I do not need it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new dashboard. Let's call it Financial Samples. And I'll go back to my report. I'll select the charts that I want to pin to my dashboard, and I'll just click this pin button at the top. That brings up a dialog, Pin to Dashboard. I can select an existing dashboard or create a new dashboard. So I will select the Financial Samples dashboard, and I'm going to go ahead and just pin all of these to that dashboard. All right, so let's go back to the dashboard, and now you can see that they're all available here on my dashboard. I can resize them if I need to, rearrange them as needed, and that's it. That's how easy it is to create immersive visual dashboards for yourself or your users or your managers or anyone in your organization using data that you've imported into Power BI. Okay, so I told you before that we could change the featured dashboard. So if I click up here on featured dashboard, we're back at samples. But what if I want my new financial samples dashboard to be my featured dashboard? Well, let's click on that again. We'll come up over here to the little ellipsis, and down at the bottom, set as featured dashboard. We'll go ahead and confirm that. And now, let's click out of it and then click up here on featured dashboard. Now when I log in, this will be my featured dashboard. Pretty easy stuff. Okay, so that was importing data from Excel. Let's try a new data source. I'm going to click Get Data again. This time, let's connect to a database. So these are the databases that are supported using the Power BI service. Now remember, if you use the Power BI desktop application, you can import data from just about any data source you can come up with. But you must use the desktop application for most other data sources, and then you'll pull those in using the Power BI desktop, and then you'll publish those up here to the Power BI service, and then they'll be available to you. But if you want to connect directly to a data source from the Power BI service, these are the database options available to you. So let's connect to an Azure SQL database. Click that, click Connect. All right, so we need some information about our Azure SQL database. So I will go over to the Azure portal and get that info. I've got an AdventureWorks SQL database up in Azure. So let's get the server name. I will copy that, and I believe it's just AdventureWorks. All right, we'll click Next. I'll type in my username and password, sign in, and it has imported my new data set. You'll notice I now have an AdventureWorks data set down here in the datasets section. Before we take a look at that, I just wanted to note, let's go back to the Azure portal. In order for that connection to be successful, in order for Power BI to be able to connect to an Azure SQL database and successfully pull in the data, we've got to do a couple of things. First, let's click on the server here and go to Firewall. And you've got to ensure that the IP address from which you are connecting is allowed to access that SQL Server database. So I'll go ahead and remove this just to show you how this is done. All right, so this is the IP address for my local machine here. I simply click the plus sign. That adds my local IP address. You must ensure that this allow access to Azure services is on, and click save. And so long as you do those two things, you should have no problem connecting to an Azure SQL database from Power BI. All right, so let's take a look at that new data set that we just imported. So we have all of the AdventureWorks tables here and all of the fields. We can create any visualizations we want. I'm not going to go too in-depth with this data set, but we will create a simple one real quick. Let's look at the number of, let's take products, so product name, and let's look at the number ordered. All right, so it gave us the data in tabular format, but I'm going to go ahead and create a bar chart here. All right, so there we have all of the products and the quantity of those products that have been ordered by customers. Product orders. I'm going to go ahead and save this report. And I would like to pin it to let's go ahead and pin it to financial samples as well. All right, let's go back and look at financial samples. And you'll notice that my new visualization is here on my dashboard. Whenever you import a new data set, it adds a new tile here to oops, didn't mean to do that. Adds a new tile to your dashboard. Basically, something that you can click to quickly navigate to your data set. So notice if I click this Azure SQL Database tile, it goes right down to my Azure SQL Database data set. But I don't want that on this dashboard, so I'm going to get rid of it. And let's see, let's rearrange some of this stuff. Whoops, did not mean to navigate out of that. All right, I will move this up here. And I will make this bigger. All right, there we go. So now we have a dashboard with several different charts and visualizations from multiple data sources. Pretty cool stuff. All right, so far we've looked at how to connect to data sources using an Excel file. We've looked at how to connect to an Azure SQL database. The last data source that I want to connect to is a third-party service. Yeah, what do I mean by that? Let's click the Get Data button. You'll notice before we were working over here with files and databases. To the left, we have a services option. So I'm going to click Get for services. And you'll see that Power BI comes with quite a few, I believe it's more than 50 services that are already pre-configured to work with Power BI. So you can browse through these. There are quite a few very interesting services, and we'll connect to one here in just a moment, and I'll show you what this looks like. But you can connect to services that you are subscribed to, and enter your account information to connect your account to Power BI. Power BI will import the data and you'll get a rich set of charts and visualizations based on the data in your account. So, so let's take a look at what we have here. Some of the ones that I've used before: Application Insights. If you're a Microsoft developer and you use Application Insights, this is great. You want to create a web dashboard that shows your applications, users, sessions, page views, etc. Application Insights will provide that. If you don't use that, there's also Google Analytics. If you use Azure Search, you can get you can connect to Azure Search and get some charts and visualizations that will show you what kind of searches people have been performing against your Azure Search account. GitHub, there's MailChimp, Google Analytics, Microsoft Project, Salesforce, QuickBooks Online, let's see what else, Twilio, Zendesk, User Voice, Visual Studio Team Services, just a lot of great services that are already set up and configured to work with Power BI. So let's connect to one of these and see what this looks like. I'm going to connect to GitHub. And because my own personal GitHub account is not nearly interesting enough for Power BI, I'm going to use the Microsoft ASP.NET Teams GitHub account, so we can connect to that and take a look at the data that's there. So the repository owner, ASP.NET, the repository, we're going to look at the MVC repository. I'll click Next. Now, since this is a public repository, I can connect to it, even though I don't own it. I do need to sign into GitHub, though. So I'll select OAuth 2, click Sign In. If I hadn't already signed in, I believe that little window would have asked me for my username and password and asked me for permission for Power BI to access that GitHub information. And now Power BI is working on pulling in the data from GitHub. And once the data is ready, we'll click down here on our new data set, and you'll notice that it pulled in quite a few fields, which I can use to create some new visualizations. But the cool thing about the service content packs that I just showed you, such as this GitHub one, is that they come pre-configured with reports and dashboards. So let's take a look at this. You'll notice that when it finished pulling in the data, we had this new report and this new dashboard as well as the data set. So let's click on the reports here and take a look at the reports that we have. Quite a great deal of really interesting information. So here we have commits by, it looks like commits by month. Here we have top contributors table, additions and deletions, users with greater than 2.5% of total commits. So these are the users who commit a lot to that repository. And down here we have, this isn't all of the reports, we have several tabs. So let's go here to contributor commits by date. We have a chart there, pull requests, more charts, punch card, issues. Quite a lot of interesting information that comes out of the box. All you have to do is hook Power BI up to one of these services, and this is what you get. Let's go take a look at the dashboard. Now this is really cool. So we have a dashboard that has some of the charts that we were just looking at, and also some custom data points here. So here are the number of open pull requests, Here are the number of pull requests this month, average hours to pull, open issues, closed issues, etc. So a lot of great data available here in this dashboard, which you can readily share with anybody and give some great insight into this GitHub account. So let's go take a look at the services that are available to us again. Now that you've seen what's possible by connecting Power BI to a GitHub account, hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of what you're in for when you connect Power BI to some of these other services which you may be using. All right. Real quick, before we move on from this GitHub example, I did want to call out this little search box up here at the top. One of the nice things about Power BI is the ability to use what they call Q&A. So ask questions about your data using natural language. So Power BI is smart enough to interpret, if you just by using natural language to ask questions, Power BI is smart enough to interpret what you're asking and provide that data. So, for example, let's write how many commits last month? 74. Or how many open issues? 4 open issues. All right, let's pin this. I'm going to go ahead and pin this to my GitHub dashboard. All right. We'll go back to the dashboard and notice down at the bottom, now I have this count of open issues. And this is nice because now we can track all this data in addition to the number of open issues as the data changes over time. And speaking of the data changing, let's go over here to the GitHub dataset and see how it keeps our dataset up to date. Notice that if I wanted to update the dataset, I could just click refresh now. But let's go ahead and click schedule refresh and look at some of these options. All right. Here under the schedule refresh option, you'll notice that it's already configured to refresh daily. Now, if you wanted to change this, you could change it to weekly. Those are the only options right now. But this ensures that the data is regularly refreshed so that when we view our dashboards or people who we've shared them with are viewing them, they're always seeing the most up-to-date current data. Now, if we look for similar settings on the other data sets that we imported into Power BI, you'll notice that it's not there. Why is that? Well, the financial sample data set is that was an Excel spreadsheet that I imported from a local file on my hard drive. So there's really no way for Power BI to refresh that data. I would have to re-upload the data. If we look at the AdventureWorks database, there are no settings available, and the reason is because whenever you refresh your dashboards or you query the data here in Power BI, it's always executing those queries in real time against the SQL Azure database. All right. Now, one other thing I want to point out, and this is really one of my favorite features here in Power BI. Well, besides the ease with which you can create the rich visualizations of your data, one of the cool features is something called Quick Insights. So down here on my data set, I'm going to open the menu and click Quick Insights. notice it says searching for insights, and it shouldn't take too long. It's going to notify us when it's ready. Again, I'm running this over the data set that we imported from the Excel spreadsheet. It only had about 700 rows in it, so it shouldn't take too long. There we go, insights are ready. Let's go take a look at them. And what this is doing is Power BI is just basically looking at the data and reporting on interesting relationships or correlations between data points and data sets, and showing those to you. So, for example, this one here, oops. We have high accounts for the majority of discounts. Small business has noticeably more sale price. There's a correlation between sale price and gross sales for discount band high. Let's see what else. Just some of this stuff that it discovers, some of these insights that it shows you, may not be useful at all. But what's cool is that it shows you data. It shows you your data in a way that you maybe didn't think to look at it before. So it may actually give you some unique insight into your data. All right. So finally, I just want to show you a few dashboards that we use internally at Falafel, so you can kind of get an idea of the usefulness of Power BI, and specifically connecting to some of these third-party services. So let's see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show just the dashboards that were shared with me, and let's take a look at Google Analytics for one of our product websites. You can see here on our Google Analytics dashboard, we can quickly and easily, everyone who has access to this dashboard can log into Power BI, open up this dashboard, and quickly and easily see all the relevant traffic information for this site. Number of new users, site traffic, sessions by day of week, breakdown by browser, page load times, top pages, session durations, bounces, etc., etc. One of my favorites is our Application Insights portal. So here we've connected one of our sites to the Application Insights service, and what we've got is a bunch of really great information that took us literally no time at all. We simply connected Power BI to Application Insights with the relevant connection information, and it provided us this dashboard, which we were able to share with others. And now we have all of this really rich visual access to our data with very little, almost no effort required on our part. Okay, that about wraps up our webinar for today. If you're interested in resources to learn more about Power BI, head over to powerbi.microsoft.com. There are lots of great content there, articles, videos, tutorials, on just about every Power BI topic there is. Also, stay tuned to blogs.falafel.com. We plan on posting additional Power BI content in the future. So thank you so much for joining our webinar today. Best of luck in your Power BI adventures.